Testing. Okay, there we go. Morning, everyone, and lovely to have you all here on what I believe is an incredibly exciting day for education in South Africa, and hopefully well beyond that. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Mike Abel. I'm the Executive Chairman of the Up and Up Communications Group, where you are today, and I also have the privilege of being a director of HelloAida, and having walked a large part of this journey with Leora and the partners involved. I think none of us can not acknowledge that we are at a pivotal moment in civilization, actually, for humanity with the advent of artificial intelligence. Any of us that have been paying close attention will realize that this is a seismic moment for the world. And it reminds me of the Greek mythology story of Prometheus, who was thrown out of heaven by the gods because he gave fire to man. And as we know, fire can create light, fire can create warmth, fire can be used for cooking things, and fire can burn everything down. It's how you use it. And I think that that is pretty much where AI is. It can be incredibly destructive, or it can be unbelievably empowering. And the beauty about HelloAida is that Leora has created something here that is designed in full to be entirely empowering in a world where there could be very many challenges. The biggest challenge I see and have seen, and that got me involved in the first place, was how AI provides answers. And the reality is that when kids today are given answers, they're not learning. They're being given shortcuts. And the opportunity here for HelloAida is to teach children critical thinking, logical and sequential ways, methodologies, and conceptual understanding to learn. And that is the most critical thing. And the fact that it's a walled garden provides an entirely safe environment, whereas other LLMs or other tools don't do that at all. So that is what has attracted me in a very big way to HelloAida. Leora came to see me originally because she wanted me to do the branding, marketing, and advertising for this new tool of hers. And I've operated in the world of philanthropy for decades, where I've sought to make a positive difference in this country wherever I could, be it our global movement that clothes the homeless, called the Street Store, or be it the many bursaries that we offer as a company for students in South Africa. And when I look at the boys that I do have on bursaries in South Africa, what they don't have is access to tutors. They're bright kids and they're on full bursaries, but they are left to their own devices. And I looked at my own situation as a dad, and having 3 boys, my last one is in matric now, all at private schools, all bright boys, and all had tutors in almost every subject in addition. So when you've got intelligence and you've got access to private education and you still need tutors, where does that leave people in South Africa generally that have access to none of those things? So when I looked at this, I said to Leora, I don't want to just do the marketing and the advertising and the branding. I want to get behind this thing to the fullest extent that I can. So we're excited to share the journey with you. I'll introduce Ryan shortly. But before I do that, just to say, it's a day of engagement, it's a morning of conversation, and we want you to get the most out of this as is possible. There are no silly questions. Can't even use the word stupid anymore. I'll be cancelled. There are no silly questions. So please ask questions of our panelists when it comes to that moment. But let's just kick off with a video, and hope you enjoy it.
South Africa's education system is under pressure, which means millions of children are already falling behind before their futures have even begun. And in a country where youth unemployment continues to rise, the cost of limited access to quality educational support is simply too high. But what if there was a way to give every learner access to affordable, high-quality academic guidance anytime, anywhere, and in all subjects? Introducing HelloAida, South Africa's first custom-built multilingual AI tutoring platform. Unlike other AI tools, HelloAida is designed specifically for real learning. Built for learners from grade 1 to grade 12, it strengthens critical thinking and reasoning while guiding students step by step towards true understanding. Turning confusion into clarity and effort into confidence. So say hello to a smarter way to learn and to the confidence that comes from real progress and to a future filled with possibility for every learner in South African schools. HelloAida, the tutor for your future.
So I hope that everybody here and those joining us online, a number of you I see, a big welcome. And I'm going to hand over to our local celebrity and famous radio personality, Mr. Ryan O'Connor. Welcome, Ryan, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks. Good morning, everybody, to everyone online as well. Hi. I see most of us in the room grew up in an age where AI wasn't around. And I can guarantee if I ask everyone in the room or anyone in the room who doesn't use AI in their current working fields or home or in life, I should rather say. Anyone who doesn't, anyone in the room who's not engaged with AI at all, I thought as much. Now, more importantly, I'm a father of a 9 and 10-year-old who's very, very, very concerned about AI and what it could possibly mean for them. Because for those of us who grew up without it, we learned how to get to the answers before AI came along. AI has made our lives, and especially mine in the media field, a lot easier to navigate. I can now do things at speeds that I could never do before, or that would require 3 or 4 people to do it. But at the end of the day, I think we all have one thing in common when it comes to AI. We know the answers we're looking for, so we can go over them and make sure we know how it got there. And I think that's very important, because kids have access to a system which they can put things in, but not quite figure out how the heck they got to that answer, even though they can swear to you it's the truth, because AI has said it's the truth. And so the question is then, how did it get to that? And I think that's, as a parent, a very big question that we should all be asking, is how did it get to that? And I think you're going to find out a little bit more about how. The question of how and the question of trusting that how. So, without further ado, an exceptional panel next to me of industry leaders, starting, of course, with the founder of HelloAida, Leora Hessen. Leora saw a gap, obviously, to access to answers and actual understanding of how to get there. And I think, again, that's what you'll find in the thread of today. So, she's built something to address it, so we'll welcome her, ladies and gents, Leora, to the panel. Mbali Ntuli is the founder and CEO of Groundwork Collective. Mbali brings a grounded, real-world perspective where education, access, and inequality intersect in very real ways. Welcome to the panel. And then an old dear friend of mine who happened to go to the same school as me, same school as the mayor of Cape Town, and we're slowly taking over the world. It's a little community called Edgemead. If you haven't heard of it, wait, watch this space. We might have a president one day who comes from Edgemead High School. So the current principal, Joel Erasmus, is making huge waves in the northern suburbs in bringing a strong sense of community. Welcome to the panel. And then last but not least, the man, in actual fact, with the brains of the panel, and I don't want to discard the other panel members, but this is an actuarial scientist from UCT, Mvelo Nkosi. It is lovely to have you here, because not only representing the learners in all of us, but someone who's actually living the reality day to day. So, folks, a warm welcome to our panel. Like I said, you're going to get to ask them some questions a bit later on. But I guess to get us underway, I think the biggest shift that we're seeing in students learning today, to Leora, I just want to understand, first of all, from you, what problems were you trying to solve? What did you feel was missing when students were using AI?
So, is it on?
Yeah.
How it actually started, my husband and I have an 11-year-old daughter, and I have a background in IT and in tech. everything in my house, and my neighbors know this as well, works on AI. So I don't know how to switch a TV on in my house without asking Alexa to turn the TV on, or while I'm driving for Siri to do stuff for me. So my daughter, through osmosis, has learned just to use AI every day. And about a year and a half ago, she started taking my phone, holding it over her homework, and just saying to ChatGPT, because we have a pro account, please do my homework for me. And the first time, a year and a half ago, when the pro ChatGPT version came out, I thought it was quite funny and quite clever at 10 years old. Then the next day she did it. The third day she did it, I said, no, we have a problem here. And you are going to get to high school, and you're just going to be, I won't say the word stupid, but you're not going to understand how to get answers. And when you have to write these tests that you have to write at school, you're not going to be able to know how to write a test or find an answer. And your critical thinking skills are just going down the toilet. On top of that, put all the short form videos that they're all watching at their age. So you've got TikTok and YouTube shorts, as well as AI now. The critical thinking skills are disappearing, and that was my fear for our daughter. My domestic worker's daughter and my daughter are the exact same age, same grade, they're born a month apart. She's failing maths, and it upsets me terribly that she's failing maths. So I say to her, I'm going to build something for the two of you, so that the two of you have got a tool to help you understand when you go to a test how to write a maths test, for example. Not just get the answer, but how to get to the answer. And it's a skill for life. How to come to an answer is a skill. How to ask a question is a skill. So I started building this private tutor for my daughter and for my domestic worker's daughter, and realized while I was building it, well, actually, I have the ability to build it, make it multilingual, train it on the entire CAPS and IEB curriculum, and anyone of any age from grade 1 to 12 is also able to use it. It's not just built for the two of them to make my life easier, because I can't do Singapore maths either. So that's how basically a short story long, actually.
And it's stunning because, this doesn't replace a parent or replace a teacher. It's there as an aid and a tool in which both can be used hand in hand. And that's pretty important from a parent's point of view, because if you've ever tried to teach a 9 or 10-year-old stuff that you yourself can't grasp, it gets to a point when they can't grasp it, that they see your frustration, that they see that you're not actually quite, patient enough for them to teach them how to get to that answer. You kind of get louder and a bit more cross with them, and AI doesn't in this case. It actually tells them from that point of view of where they actually are going wrong, and helps them in a way that's a lot calmer than a parent. I can promise you that much. Mbali, I want to ask from your perspective, what does education actually look like on the ground, especially in communities where we spoke about access and infrastructure, that's not guaranteed?
Thanks. So just a little bit of background. For 5 years, I was the spokesperson on the education committee in KwaZulu-Natal. I sit on every single board of every previous school that I've ever been to. I am the deputy chairperson of ISASA in KZN, and I run an organization that is about civic education and trying to democratize access to all young people in this country. So education for me, and constantly dealing with it, is not something that I do just, ad hoc. It's very much a part of who I am and what I do. And the reality that I'm sure many of you are aware of on the ground is that we remain the most unequal society in the world because we haven't been able to solve the issue of how to make sure that the quality education that young people in this country should be having is accessible to everyone. So that's what we really actually need to solve at the heart of the problems that we have in this country. So a tool like this, I think, is going to be incredibly important to democratize access.
Yeah.
On the ground, of course, you're going to still have issues of connectivity and whether or not it can be taught in mother tongue. And we know that, statistics show that you should be able to do that, because then it makes sure that those children can learn better and faster. So if you have something that can teach people in their home language, help them to understand beyond when they leave the gates of the school, because they still have to have education. But the reality is, of course, not everyone has a parent that can do this, show them, teach them, or even be there. I think it really could be a game changer in terms of making sure that a student who wants to learn, but is in a classroom with teachers that have 90 other students there, is able to continue the work even beyond that. So I'm excited to start seeing it really happening. I've played around with the app myself. I have a 7-year-old as well, and I've taken her through it, and I think it could be a game changer into the communities that don't traditionally have the kind of access that most of us here would be able to have.
And I think to your point, this is a great opportunity. If you are watching and you're a telecommunication provider, I think your eyes should be lighting up at a product like this to be able to get it to those communities. If you see yourself fitting into this equation and being able to be a providing of resources, certainly we've got the product. We just need you to put your hand up and say, come, we're willing to get you data where it's needed. We're willing to get you product where it's needed. We are willing to give you the tools that you need to access this beautiful platform. So, Mbali, thanks for that. And then, Joel, from a school's point of view, I mean, sure, you're on the ground, you're dealing with AI from in every level. How's this becoming a part of everyday learning?
I think if you buy any product right now, even my new laptop the school bought me, it's labeled as AI built in. And so on the school ground level, young people are grown up with this. So, you know, when we ask the audience here, how many of you not using AI, no one put up their hand. Every single person is using AI. So on the ground level, the young people are using it. And so the navigation now, the best thing about, I was always concerned that the products that we're using are not built in South Africa, so they don't understand our curriculum. And so the best part about South African curriculum is it's standardized. So CAPS, if you write it in Cape Town, the same schools in Johannesburg, Durban are writing the same curriculum. So if it's built into, when you're using an AI product that's not built in South Africa, you have to prompt it. And as an educator, I'm a professional in teaching. So I can say I'm a history teacher. I teach a grade 9 class now. It's the best part of my day. And I prompt, and that's why I'm the only two of us are wearing ties here. I wear a tie every day.
Got to be a history teacher. Got to be a history teacher.
High standards. And so, yeah, history teacher. But what we find is I know the outcome. So I know what to prompt. So I'll say, I need CAPS curriculum, grade 9 level, looking at level 1, 2, and 3 questions. The kid on the ground doesn't know that. They're not the experts in the subject. So if they go to AI products that doesn't know the outcome, it's going to give them the answer. And so that's what we're seeing in classroom spaces. We're really worried about short concentration spans. It's weird how I listen to a lot of podcasts on education. They're wanting people to watch TV again. It's crazy. My dad didn't buy us DSTV because he didn't want us to watch TV. And so now they want young people to watch TV so they can have longer spans of concentration. And so when you get in everything instant, we have to break away from that, where a product like what we trialing it at my school, we're really excited to use it. I've been using it myself. And the key is the prompt. You know, so forcing young people to not get an answer instantly is important for me.
Mvelo, looking back at your high school experience, how would a product and tool like HelloAida have changed things for you?
Okay, thank you, Ryan. I think back in high school, you had a problem that you had to wait to ask the teacher a question the next day. So you couldn't get through a question, maybe you're practicing at home. You couldn't just get through a question quickly because you didn't understand and your parents back at home couldn't help you get through the question. So you had to wait for the next day so that you can ask the teacher. And even then, when you ask the teacher, they only have maybe 1 or 2 ways to explain it. So a tool like HelloAida has multiple ways to approach a question, multiple ways to explain it to you as well, and it speeds up the learning process because now you don't have to wait for the next day. You can just ask now, and it can guide you through the question instead of just giving you the answer straight away. And I think it leads to a much better learning experience.
What we're hearing come through here is that journey, is that process is in place. And Leora, it kind of lends me to ask the question about the difference between a student using AI for the sake of answers and one that is actually probably using AI as it should be used.
I can answer. So I think we've all seen it with our own kids. Yeah. We want them to learn. We want them to know. We want them to be able to go into the world having knowledge about how they got there. So when they get out of school, they need to have learned things along the way. And just, there's a stat at the moment that I was watching in America. Gen Z, I think it is. How many Gen Z kids go to their first job interview with their own parents? It wasn't something I ever thought I'd see on TV. Like, I never thought I'd see that stat ever. and it was on CNN. The reporter said the same thing to the analyst. And she said, I don't know, 1%? 30% of kids in America go to their first job interview with their parents because they don't know how to answer job interview questions. We need to teach our kids how to ask questions and how to answer questions. And until we as parents need to know that this is a problem and probably something that's right on our, like following us right on our backs, we need to be on top of it now. So for me, it's so important that kids understand how to ask and answer.
And to add to that as well, I think as a parent watching your kids explore your platform, it's actually quite addictive because you yourself find yourself going, oh, really? Is that how it got there? And you don't want to tell your kids that you didn't really know the exact way to get there. So at the same time, you're kind of schooling yourself on grade 3 and 4 work, and it's quite to a degree embarrassing as a parent, but it's fascinating and interesting to see how this AI has been implicated in the right way to get the kids thinking about how the outcome got to be there. So, Joel, what about now? I want to throw a spanner in the works here. What about those teachers out there that aren't ready to embrace it? I mean, we've all got those teachers that teach our kids that for AI is just a vloekwoord. It's a swear word to them. And they're a bit scared about being replaced in the classroom. They're a bit scared about using it and about encouraging. How do you, where's the school's responsibility sit in a situation like that?
Change is scary. So if it's in a school environment, any one of your industries, any form of change is difficult. When the internet came, I mean, it's crazy to think that when we grew up, our parents didn't want to have TV. Now they want us to watch TV. So change is inevitable. For a teacher that's not going to embrace it, themselves using AI, I mean, the first time I used AI and I saw that it can help me format my wording and my letters and everything, and it just saved me hours, because I'd have to send it to the English teacher to read and it would come back to me. Now I don't like the way AI sounds, but it's got I'm inputting. So for the teacher that doesn't want to embrace it, they're going to lose hours in their week. So for the teachers that are using it, the products that we train in our staff on. So what we find in our school is that as the leader of the school, I have to embrace the products first. There's too many products on the platform. So I don't like to take, as a principal, all meetings with everyone that's selling products, because they think they're going to make money off a school. School's funding is very limited. We're almost MPOs. So when you have products that are for free, they're provided to us, like Google Classroom, that has inbred AI, Microsoft, we use Microsoft School. So the key for me to prevent the resistance of the teachers is to create the space for teachers, not after hours. So the teacher's job is to teach. If you go to a school that's high functioning, which I would love every school in South Africa to be, the teacher's going outside to do an activity. So they're in the culture department, so they're getting home at 5 o'clock, then they're going to start grading. And so what we're finding when we're training our teachers, we're removing them from spaces like an assembly once a week. We're creating a think tank space. So we're creating time for the teacher in the day to be able to play with the products. Digital fitness is key for my staff. So, we're on the forefront. I'm able to travel to tech conferences to find out what's coming. And so that's what we're doing to do that. But when we trial it with our teachers, Microsoft has Microsoft Teach now. It's specifically AI for teachers. When we show how they can make a rubric of just typing in a few things, and CAPS, whatever, we show them the prompts, and the rubric comes up, it's like you can just see their faces. Oh, my word, I've been doing this for 8 hours, and I can do it in 5 minutes. And so the key is the leader that is using the product is not just sitting with all the information, but empowering other teachers. And through these collaboration spaces, we're trialing the product now with our grade 10s. To see how we can, learners under 50%, to see what it's going to do with their learning. So for me, it's the time saving. And then when you're sitting going home at 4 o'clock and not 7 o'clock, you can say to the person, I don't have to be here because I'm using AI in my personal capacity. So I think from a teacher's perspective, get them to focus on teaching and learning. A big thing that we're finding is that you're waiting for assessments to give feedback. So you're teaching for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then you as a parent get a report card and you've wasted 11 weeks. So the way we're using AI is we're sending out platforms that can generate feedback for the learners quickly. Create a quick quiz very, very easily. We're obviously experts. We know what we're asking it. And then sending it through links to the kids to complete in class. We get an instant feedback, and we can keep the parents in touch from week 3. So before, how would you mark when you've got to meet the curriculum? Now AI can help you mark that product. So our kids and our parents are getting feedback instantly.
And then you add to the mix
Yes.
a product like this to the mix that just kind of fits in the mix perfectly with a
Yeah.
dashboard that allows parents and teachers alike to follow the child's progress.
So the best part is they go home and do it. So we navigating learning at school. My daughter, we spoke about it outside. Both our kids have tutors. They're only in grade 5 now. So I have a maths tutor and an English tutor just to keep up with the curriculum. So now what can happen is that, but we can fund it. If you can't fund it, you can have the tutor at home knowing that the answer is not coming from the internet, but coming from CAPS. And that to me as a teacher is the safest part.
Mbali, I'd like to bring you into the conversation about what it would take to genuinely trust a technology like this enough to recommend it to communities that you work with.
So I think most people would talk about features, but I think for me, what it would take is making sure that it's actually solving the problem that that particular community has, and that it's something that is able to be adaptable to those needs. So I mean, I've already said it needs to be able to be in the different languages. It needs to be something that, you know, as Joel has said, is aligned to the actual curriculum, so it's going to have the outcomes that are going to be necessary for that particular learner or parent to trust. But I think more than that is just the transparency around how the child is getting to that particular answer. I think nobody wants to feel as though they're doing a shortcut here for their children. They still want their children to learn. And for me, as I said, I've been playing around with it, and I feel quite confident that it's going to be a game changer. And I think not to also replace the teachers, but like Joel says, to really help them. And if you have a teacher who is incredibly overwhelmed, as we know, in the current context of most of the schools in our country, and you can provide a way for them to alleviate some of that stress and also be able to really help children, which is what most of them genuinely want to do, I think that it's going to create its own trust. It's going to create its own sort of word of mouth in various schools about how it can really actually help to change young people's lives. And just, you know, another thing is, for example, I don't know if you guys know how many of the libraries in our country are actually shutting down. And previously, this is one of the few spaces where children after school could go and access the kind of extra work that they might need to do while in school. And many of them are closing down. And so in that problem that we now have as a country, how else can we try to solve for the very things that those libraries are providing? And I think AI is here to stay. And the best way is for us to guide it at this very critical beginning point as it's entering into discussions with the Department of Basic Education to try and shape how we would like it to be used in schools. So we don't wait to be told that this is how it's going to be. We have the ability, I think, even now to shape how AI, and this is one of the ways that I think would be really good. And I mean, Minister Horube last week was talking about the AI that they're developing. So I think it's an exciting time to also just get them on board so that we can start seeing it trialed out in many communities.
Mbali, you touched on a lot of points there, and just to clarify that this is available in every one of our official languages, which is in itself as a tutor program, mind-blowing that that's available, where tutorage in certain communities in that specific language is almost, I wasn't saying it's impossible till now, and we're making that possible. Mvelo, if I can bring you now into, and just looking back at your generation and how they approach learning, if you could change one thing about how your generation approaches learning, what would it be?
I'd say I'd change the plug-and-play culture of how to use AI, because I'm seeing even now in uni, we just plug in the question into AI, then we get the answer. If it's an assignment, we copy and paste, then we forget about it. And that's not really how you learn, you know. And imagine if you start doing that from high school, then now you're limiting your learning ability. You're getting used to being given answers straight away instead of understanding things and going through the actual learning process. So I think a tool like this, which just helps you through the process, instead of making things, yes, it does make things easier, but you still have to do some work to understand the things. You know, you still have to let it take you through that learning journey and not just cut and paste answers to your assignments or tests or quizzes, you know.
Where do we draw the line? Leora, I'll bring you into the conversation now as well, between helpful support and over-reliance. You know, we can't live without it. We cannot move away without opening up that app to double-check. Where do we draw that line?
You know, my uni stats lecturer likes to emphasize the importance of struggling with the question.
Right.
We are so uncomfortable with not knowing the solution to something. So much so that we we're even lazy to think what the solution is. We want the easy way out. And he emphasizes struggling, which is a concept that is very now close to me because I've gotten through so much of my courses through struggling through the content first, then later getting it. And I find that it's more rewarding if you go through the struggle first instead of solving a question in 10 minutes. I'd rather spend like 40 minutes trying to think about the answer than have AI help me afterwards. I think that's where we draw the line, yeah.
Leora, if we get this right, what could learning in South Africa realistically look like in the next few years?
If we get this right, we can hopefully level the playing field, because kids sitting in a township in Soweto have access to the same tutoring that kids sitting in a mansion in Sandton do. So from Soweto to Sandton, from Khayelitsha to Fresnay, if kids just have access to extra support in their own mother tongue, we can literally level the playing field. In the early 80s, there was a study done. It's called the Bloom's Two Sigma problem. And a man called Benjamin Bloom discovered that kids in first world countries who had access to private tutoring did 84% better than kids that didn't have access to private tutoring. That's in the 80s already. They could go from, so they could improve their marks by 2 grades. So if they were getting a C, they could get an A. If they were getting a D, they could get a B. We didn't have, our kids don't have access to that. Most kids in this country don't have access to that. If we can give them access and this works, and we solve the connectivity and the devices and things like that, these kids can level the playing field. Instead of churning out a few hundred engineers every year, we could churn out thousands. We have that ability. It's just that we've, sorry to say this, what we've done in this country is lower the threshold to pass. So kids can pass an exam now at 30% or 33%. To me, we should be saying that's a travesty. We shouldn't be allowing that. Let kids struggle. Let them fail and learn and learn and learn. Because you can't go into the world at 30%.
I mean, Joel, you'll see that on the ground. We're living in a culture of rewarding everyone. Everyone gets a participation award. Everyone gets something for just being there. You passed, you've done the bare minimum, well done. And we celebrate that. It's like, you know, to your point, there's no sense of learning from mistakes.
Yeah, we are seeing that. I mean, there's lots of good that comes with a merit-based system, you know, where you're rewarding good behavior and you see the culture shift like that, which is something that we're actively participating in. I'm generally worried that the haves and the have-nots, the growth is even getting bigger. And you know, we're creating Bachelor Pass, which is to get to university, and I give the statistics to my students, is that you're going to pass to the Bachelor Pass thinking that you're going to go to university, and hundreds of thousands of graduates are leaving the schooling system for a few posts at a university. And so it's really, really challenging for me to see kids coming from these really good schools unable to get into universities. And then the ones that are coming with tutors and stuff are finishing. They're graduating because they have it in play. I work with fantastic teachers. You've been to my school, really, really competent teachers. My science teachers left. She didn't. She's a chemical engineer, and so she wants to give back. I have an accounting teacher that's a CA. And the challenge that we're seeing with them is that when these kids are enrolling in grade 10, 11, and 12, FET, mathematics, and science, one of the requirements we're saying, okay, you need to get a tutor. We're saying it before when we're meeting with the parents. It's not uncommon for my students that are going into medical sciences to have a tutor from grade 9 already. And so that's the challenge that you're facing now. We run free after-school programs. The school offers it. But again, that's limited. You know, you have to be there, and if you get transport and you have to go home, and because your mom says I must go home, but I have extra classes, then you got the sports practices and the cultural stuff. So that's where I'm saying the AI gap can really have a big impact on South Africa, is that learning goes home with you. You can study at home, and even talking, when we were talking outside about, you know, we want kids not to have cell phones. You know, we don't want our kids to have cell phones. But in South Africa, we don't. But if you have a safe product that you know, then it's something that we can navigate as families, going, okay, this product we trusted, so therefore it makes sense that we have this for our children, but there's no other apps or any other stuff that we don't want on there. So to me, that's a key factor.
Now, I'm presuming a lot of you haven't seen what the product looked like. And Mbali, you spoke about using it with your daughter. And the one thing about any kind of platform that when you use it, I mean, I battle to open up a spreadsheet and figure out how to take columns and change columns because there's no instruction sheet that tells me when I click on it that I need to do X or Y or Z, and I end up blotching the whole document. It's got to be very, very user-friendly. It's got to be accessible for a 7 or 8-year-old to get behind it and obviously navigate the platform. Talk about your experience when you opened it up for the first time, right? Because I did the same thing, and I looked at the landing page, and I was going, well, this is pretty straightforward. I mean, the thinking behind the usage of the platform, for me, it was quite groundbreaking to see and refreshing to see. Did you have the same experience?
I did. I thought it was quite easy to use. Obviously, my daughter's 7, so I have to help her through it. But I do think that that's one of the features that's probably going to be best for the product because it's quite easy to use. And I think, you know, there's a stat, I think, in South Africa that there's a 92% penetration rate of cell phones. And for me, the other thing about this, and I mean, Leora would probably know more about it, but because we do a lot of work on the digital platforms with our civic education, we found that making sure that it's very low and light in terms of data has been the game changer in terms of how many people actually continuing to connect with us there. And I think that if this is the same for HelloAida, then those students and those young people that we see on TikTok who are obviously using smartphones are going to keep coming back to it because it's going to be such an easy way for them to be able to do it. And I have no doubt that they'll figure out the features far easier than us. But I didn't have any difficulty, and I'm sort of in the generation which is pre-internet and sort of post-internet. So this is I think, going to be a big game changer for young people who already are on their cell phones. So as Joel says, give them something that's going to be easy to use, that helps them. And I think they themselves will continue to be quite creative about what they do. I was at Michael House on Monday talking to the students there, and we did have a conversation about AI, and I was really fascinated. The one boy was telling me that he uses AI to say, he uploads his notes and the sort of questions that are in the worksheets, and he says to AI, help me find a way to get 80% so that I can get 80% for what I would be tested on, so that I know exactly which kinds of things to figure out that I must need to learn for the thing. And I thought that's a very interesting way that they're already figuring out how to use it for themselves. So I think they're going to be very creative in how they do it, and this is the kind of product that I think will also help them map out what's important and how they need to learn.
Leora, we've had a good chat about the product, and a lot of people in the room are going to ask if I open up the tell now, okay, you've explained this. Is it ready to go to market? What do I do? I'm watching. I'm a concerned educator. I'm a concerned parent. I love what you're saying to me so far. How do I access this? How do I get this to my children, to my classroom? Tell us more.
It's ready to go. It's being used already. It's very easy. You literally just go to the website. It's helloaida.ai or .co.za if you put that in by mistake. And if you don't know how to use it, there is a student guide at the top, which you can go to in a few different languages. But it's really easy. It was built, and this isn't something that we've spoken about, it wasn't built by me on my own. I built it. But I built it together with educators, together with educational psychologists, together with educators who deal with kids who've got learning difficulties and learning disabilities. So it wasn't built by an engineer trying to solve a problem for kids that she doesn't know about. It was built together with educators as well. So everything about the product, most things, including the gamification. So there's also gamification built in. So there's learning streaks. Something new that's just been built in is I was finding with my own daughter, when we sit down at dinner, she's got no idea what's going on in the news either. So now there's a little thing at the top, like an old-fashioned chappies paper, which gives you but it's current, and it gives you just the trending news for today, but you can choose your country and your city. So it gives you the weather report, a few things that are age-appropriate. It's not going to start telling you about things that you don't want your kids to know about. And so that's also built in there. There's a Wordle or the equivalent of Wordle. That's also in there. So there's a daily Wordle built in and gamification and your user streaks and everything.
What I love is how it learns your kids' way of learning, which is something quite important because we all had that one teacher that we just couldn't stand in school. I'm sorry to say this, but we all had that one that we just couldn't relate to. They tried their best to teach us history or biology or whatever it was. And it was Joel's history class at Edgemead High School. But then you had that one exceptional teacher who just got you, who got you as a learner, who understood your ways of learning and made learning a breeze. What I love about this is with tutors, it can be the same. You can have a fantastic maths tutor for your kids, and then you take them along to the history tutor who's just absolutely terrible. And those marks aren't improving at all. Okay. This entire program throughout the entire curriculum is consistent. It understands your child's specific needs and how that child is going to learn best. But importantly, and I know again it's going to be a first question asked now, I'm paying for a math tutor, I'm paying for an English tutor. All of this is going at the end of the month, coming off my debit orders, and I'm going, ow, ow, ow. Talk to us about this. It's going to cost what price point we're looking at, and is it all inclusive? In other words, does it cover the entire curriculum for whatever I'm looking for from grades 1 to 12? It's not just specifically maths, not just specifically one specific part of the curriculum. Does it cover all bases, and is that all covered with one cost?
Yeah, so for 200 Rand a month for a parent who's subscribing privately, it's full access. So including voice, including uploading photos of your curriculum or your problem that you're having. It will talk to you back in your own language. You can talk to it in your home language. You can type. So literally for 200 Rand a month, all subjects, all grades. Sure. And there is an enterprise model for schools as well, where they're not paying the same price. We're getting corporates to sponsor schools, so they can get it at a much lower rate as well.
I love this. So far, it seems that this is an unreal evolution of AI and how it certainly can be rolled out to the next generation of thought leaders. I'd like at this point maybe to open up to the room, to our panel, to the room, to ask some questions. If there's anybody, in actual fact, but before we open it up to the room, let's just have a quick look at this video. I just want you to cast your eyes to the screen. Let's have a look at how it works in practice. Right, so there you can see, that's what the screen looks like. And again, the first thing that you'd notice, for example, over there, select your grade. You'd obviously put in your kid's grade and what it is they need help with. In this case, we're going to look at natural life sciences. Here we go. Let's put something in there.
That Daniel's putting in there, he's just written a word instead of asking a question, just to show the difference between if you actually prompt it correctly or you just write a one-word question.
So if you can't see, he's writing in there, I actually need help understanding the role that the mitre, wait for spell correct. There we go.
You can make spelling mistakes, it's also fine.
There we go. I actually need help understanding the role that the mitochondria plays in your body. And there you see, sure, let's explore. Again, you'll see there's a prompt at the end of the explanations that says why. If you can just go back a second there, it actually asks the learner, why do you think it's important for your body to have reliable energy? And you've got the opportunity to go to direct answer or guide me. And in most instances, kids are going to hit guide me, and it takes you to I'd like guidance with this. So absolutely, and then it breaks it down as we see. Again, another opportunity. How would you like to continue? Question now is exercising, question mark. Here we go, great example. It says exercising requires a lot of energy, and that's where mitochondria come to play. And then it basically will break down exactly what it is. And then again, always prompting with questions. Let me know your thoughts. Can we continue to the next step? And by the way, you'll notice there's an icon that says listen. So if your kids are battling and they want to actually hear from the assistant, it'll play the answers back. So let's change now. We're going to change the subjects to Afrikaans. We're at grade 6 Afrikaans. And you'll even see from a grade 6 point of view, the grade 6 will, even though he or she selected grade 6, as a typical grade 6, they're telling still the computer they're in grade 6. I'm not understanding what byvoeglike naamwoord means. That's a common one in my grade 6 household. Anyone that knows what it means without the AI from our panel? Byvoeglike naamwoord? What? Sorry.
Your bijnaam. No, I don't know.
Right, there's some parents that don't even get it. Teachers that don't get it. Adjective. It actually even takes you, obviously, to examples on how to use it. And then again, a guiding question. Can you think of a noun and an adjective to describe it? And again, guide me. Give me some, or in this case, give me the direct answer and full explanation.
Based on
Well, you can, yes. So what's nice is back on the home page, you can actually, once you've done with whatever learning that needs to take place, you can actually go and ask it to quiz you on what you've actually gone through. And it takes you on a little quiz of what you've actually just learned. And you can recap from previous lessons that you've had through this program, where it kind of tries to catch you out and go, hey, were you really listening when I was saying this? Let's take it step by step and find out how much of that you retained.
Shouts at you if you start swearing at it. Or
Yes, it doesn't accept any kind of blasphemous behavior from the children or any kind of obscenities from them either. So you see, the deck is pretty straightforward, and you can go in as a parent or a student into the student guide. It welcomes you back every time. It realizes at any given stage what you've gone through and what you've done so far. So very simple deck, very simple to use. As we continue asking questions, please help me break down the interest I will earn on the following. There we go. Pocket money. Mathematics grade 12 question. And the question being asked is, if I break down the interest I will earn on the following. If I invest 1,500 Rand at a simple interest rate of 5% per annum, for 3 years, how much interest will I earn? Again, it digs through the various answers available in CAPS. And there we go. Now you'll see, step 1 will always be understanding the formula, understanding how we get there, how we got to where we're going. And then it explains it to you, what the principle is, what the rate is, what the time is, and then convert the rate. It goes through the process of getting the maths in place, and then the third and final step is plugging in the values, how we get there. And then it'll show you at the end, obviously the last step, is obviously calculating that. It doesn't stop there. We then check for understanding. Can you explain what the principal rate, and it's just given it to them, but at the end it asks now, do you understand what that all means? And there the learner has the chance again to say, guide me or direct answer. And again, when you hit direct answer, it doesn't just give you the direct answer, it gives you the way to get there as well. Look at that on the side there. We've just clicked on something called analytics. And what you'll start seeing is, in actual fact, let's click on something, today's progress, your achievements. And then there's mini games as well there. So have a look there. They get a little emoji that they can animate. It tells them what they've done, what they've learned. And as a parent or as an educator, you've got access to see your kids' progress, what they're doing, what they've achieved, what they've in actual fact done. And I love how it's gone and given them these very strong words like weak warriors and math masters and science experts. I wish some of my teachers would have called me one of these things when I was at school. Century scholar, language lover, curious mind. I mean, it's so great how they've termed this. And you'll see it's a comprehensive breakdown of what this learner has literally learnt throughout the course of the use of this program. Again, ease of use in learning how to navigate this in this short space of time. It's been 10 minutes of us looking through the site, and you can already see how easy it is to navigate. So folks, that is a working example of how it works, and I think it's at that point that possibly I saw a gentleman with his hand up already in the front of here. Maybe we can just open it to the floor for a couple of questions. So without further ado, I think Stephen, if you want to lead the questions off there for us for our panel.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. My name is Stephen Price, and I've had the privilege of leading a very high-performing school at Edgemead High, and then subsequently going to a very low-performing school in Lotus High School, which from a school fee of 4,000 Rand a month to a school fee of 60 Rand a month. Since leaving those two schools, I've also joined the school's evaluation authority, which I have the privilege of visiting schools around the province to evaluate their progress and improvement, which has been an incredible journey over the last year. I asked the question, I love the program, I love the platform, and it will certainly add value to a teacher. I was at a school last week in Lambert's Bay. They draw children from Graafwater, from Elands Bay, and numerous farms in the region. The learners, 80% of the learners are transported to the school. They get up at 4:30 in the morning, they walk 2 kilometers to the farm gate, and they are picked up by a bus, and they get to school at 7:30, and then they have the incredible journey back home. 7 buses transporting these children. Households do not have access to internet, Wi-Fi. They do not have access to devices. There's one cell phone in the family, not necessarily a smartphone. It can manage maybe WhatsApp. This is the reality. This is at Lotus. It was a 60 Rand a month school fee, which I was lucky to get 20% of, if it worked. And at 200 Rand a family, at 25 Rand a learner, if it was being subsidized, 25 Rand out of a 580 Rand SASSA grant, or 2,400 Rand a month pension allowance, because many of our learners are being brought up by grandparents because their parents are non-functional. I wonder how this is going to level the playing field. Mbali said that in terms of democratization of education, this is a real challenge out there. And unless those corporates come in, Leora, to sponsor, and it's not just access to the platform, it's access to the device. Someone said, the kids will go home and do this. No, they're not. They don't have access to Wi-Fi. They're going home to, sometimes in occasion shacks, they're going home to a fishing village in the Western Cape. They're going home to a farm somewhere out in the West Coast that really doesn't have access, doesn't even have power. So how is that going to be brought to those children? That is my worry, and that is the reality, because I've had the privilege of visiting all these schools. Thank you.
I just wanted, before you answer, which is quite interesting, is that this product was taken to all the education departments prior to launching, and I get the sense that to the affordability question, and Leora, you'll be able to, and I can't speak on behalf of the Western Cape Education Department, but there certainly is a sense of excitement as to what can happen with this if the right resources are found, whether it's found through the education department and how they're going to resolve those resources or the lack of those resources. You can speak about those meetings with the education departments. What is the sense in terms of reaching the communities that don't have access to those resources?
It's a very real question and a very real problem. not only devices, connectivity, hunger is a real problem as well. Just getting the kids fed as well is a problem. But we're working very closely, not only with the education department, which is a little bit slower, but with corporates who have got CSI budgets, who are able to fund devices, or they have interest in improving and uplifting education in this country. If kids can't go home and use these devices at home, and we have the ability through going and begging the corporates, if I have to provide devices, connectivity, access, they can maybe stay at school or use them during school even. So if they have an extra period that they would be doing something else or superfluous, or if there's devices put into the schools, like a standalone computer, for example, and the teacher allows her class of 45 children to be split in half because she's now trying to give extra help to one side of the class, and the other side of the class is either going ahead or being left behind, they could have the ability to use it in the school. If we have the corporates who will sponsor the Wi-Fi and sponsor the devices or access to them. So we are doing that. We're going out and we're begging the corporates and showing them the product, and we're getting, I must be honest, really good feedback from them.
That would be the big question, is how's the private sector engaging in this? Because for as long as I can remember, I mean, we spoke about AI and what AI does, but this specific product has never been in the marketplace. So this must excite the private sector in terms of investing resources in those communities that need it.
100%. So that's what we do. And we'll start small. I don't care if we have to start one school at a time and go from there. And if corporates have got really big, some of them have got really big CSI budgets. Some of them have got employee wellness programs. So if they can't put it into a school, then they could give it to their employees for their children as well. So that's another option, to get it through employee wellness programs. We're speaking to big corporates about that as well.
Yes. No.
Well, I mean, I also want to, say that there's also a whole of society approach that we have to take, which is why it's important that the Department of Basic Education and corporates are dealing with this. When we had COVID, for example, even with our digital platform during elections, it can be zero rated. So the device is one part of it, but we do have the ability, like we have with things like the IEC and public interest things, where you can also zero rate a lot of these kinds of sort of platforms, which makes the cost of the data not be something that we now have to deal with. And then you're just dealing with the devices and how you can implement that. And there also are pilots that are happening around the country where devices in schools are being used to teach children in particularly disadvantaged communities. So I think we mustn't be stuck by all of the problems that could be there. We must meet the challenge on and work out how we resolve all of them, because it is a very real issue.
Yes.
But we have to start somewhere. And I think usually the peri-urban and township communities will be the first. And not because they're any better, but it's the easiest to penetrate. And there's many different companies that are actually coming in there for Wi-Fi specific. I forget I think it's Fiber Time, for example, which is R5, and they are opening up in KwaMashu, and there's also, a smart hub that's there. So you're also finding social impacts people working together, and I think that this is another way that you need to, for Leora to think about positioning HelloAida, is that it's not just a business model, but it can plug into what already exists in these particular places, and that we work together as a country, because education is a problem for all of us. We can't have another generation that's going to go through what we've seen in the last 30 years. And so I hear those concerns, but for me, it's always about there are ways that we can solve it, and that's what we have to be seized with as the people in this room and the people that are going to be rolling this out.
Absolutely.
Good morning, everybody. So
Morning.
firstly, I'd like to say that this is a brilliant initiative, and as a parent, I'm very excited to be able to explore a platform such as this. I'll admit that I was very anti-AI, but having a husband that is in software development and building bots and all of that, I was forced to sort of embrace, the AI world. I'm also a mom of 2 kids, one being grade 6 learner at a Edgemead Primary, just down the road from you, Joel. And also, I've got an 8-year-old boy who has autism. And I was just interested to know, would this platform allow me to create 2 profiles or multiple profiles on this platform for obviously like, you know, more than one kid? And how would that change? And does it affect the payment plan?
So you can't create 2 profiles on one subscription. What you can do though is while you're using it, just do what we were
So you could alternate.
now. You can alternate grades and ages.
Which is great. So in other words, no, you wouldn't need to pay double for both your kids. You just could use the same app, and it obviously stores the data, whatever the grade 6 is learning or whatever the grade 8 or 9 is learning. It kind of stores all that data stored there. So when they go back to their specific grade, everything that they are currently learning and going through is there, and the data is there.
Okay, a couple of questions to something Mbali said earlier on, but also about data. How heavy is it on data?
So it's been purposely kept as data light as possible. It's not an app that you can download from the App Store for various reasons, but most of them include when you just download an app, you already use a huge amount of data. So it is a web app. What you can do is just put a shortcut on your phone or your device, and on the home screen, it's set up as a web app. It's very data light. It's like having a conversation. It especially doesn't generate high data images as well. And the most expensive part of it is the voice. So when you are calling voice or voice activated, it uses a lot of tokens. That's the highest part of it. And on some of the subscriptions, voice isn't offered, especially to keep the data as low as possible as well.
Okay, and then the other thing I wanted to ask was, it's very impressive, and I mean, my son struggled with maths. In grade 10, he was getting 50s, lucky if he got 60s, and we were lucky to find a great tutor. Not only did he get an A for maths, he got A's for everything in matric, and I mean, maths is all about confidence, and if you're just getting fed answers by an AI, and you're not learning, you're not going to develop your confidence, you're not going to perform in exams, and so it's one of those horrible cycles. So I'm wondering, at this point, what we saw now, the student, the learner, is still putting in the question about what they're struggling with. But so often, you'll know, Joel, if they're missing a building block from a year or 2 years before, they don't even know which building block they're missing. So is there a way to, say if you're in grade 10 and you set yourself a goal for a B or whatever in matric or in even more, is there a way to start and power through the syllabus from grade 8 and find those building blocks to establish? Yeah.
So it's trained on the curriculum, so it knows what you would learn in grade 6, grade 7, grade 8. You can go back and ask it, what would I be doing in grade 8? Or you can go back and you can say to it, I'm struggling, I don't understand improper fractions, for example. I learned improper fractions in grade 7, I'm in grade 9, I missed that foundation. Just help me understand it. Okay, I don't understand step 3, explain it to me again and again and again and again. You can go back and learn at your pace. If you put in there that you're in grade 12, you're not stuck to grade 12. You can go and learn, you can go back and do as much revision as you need to. It does know the curriculum, so it will tell you in grade 7 you would have learned X, Y, and Z. Okay. Do you need help anyway?
And I guess, as Ryan said right in the beginning, it's not cutting out teachers or parents. So I guess there'd be a teacher or a tutor or a parent guiding that process. Okay, and then one last quick question. I'm sorry, I'm hogging the microphone. You really have every single subject.
Really have every single
Tourism,
subject.
Agriculture, that's amazing.
Life orientation. I've noticed I couldn't believe myself how many grade 11s and 12s are interacting in life orientation. I never thought it would be a subject that people would ask questions about.
Easy A.
But that's what you say. It's not that easy.
No.
So I've seen the stats from my own school that I sit on a board on, and life orientation isn't the easy A that it's supposed to be.
Hi. So first a comment, someone who works in the NGO education space, focusing on teacher training and support. A comment around, I'm really excited to see how the critical thinking, problem solving is embedded in the system. I think that is amazing, so well done on that. And then the previous speaker, Anne, spoke about learner confidence, and so I want to ask about teacher confidence, because if you're going to go into whole school systems, and I think, Joel, you also spoke a little bit about that, I would imagine that at the younger grades there needs a lot of support and guidance with this particular app or system. Is there thinking around how you get teachers to be more confident in the AI space? Because a lot of the time we see that teachers really lack that confidence. They often feel learners know more than they do, and they tend to step away from including AI in their lessons or in their classrooms. And it's really just about confidence and about them feeling comfortable in using the different models available. So I just wanted to find out if there was a way that you would be including that if you went whole school sort of system and not just individual users.
So if we're dealing with a whole school, we offer teacher training, so it doesn't take long. It includes talking about what AI is, explaining AI tools that are available out there, not only about HelloAida, but explaining what AI is, what a large language model is, how AI generates answers, like the actual thinking behind AI. If teachers would like that, we offer it, and then training on this. You can do this in 2 hours, literally, that's it. So I offer AI training to anyone really who is a beginner. So if it's a corporate and they want AI training specifically for corporates, or if it's for teaching, or if it's for parenting, yeah, we do offer the AI training.
All right, so one more question.
Hi, I'm a technology journalist, so I just have a few questions about the tech. What model is being used under the hood, and what is done to prevent hallucinations?
It depends what I'm using it for. So if it's voice, it's using Gemini, one of the Gemini models. If it's text-based, it's using one of the OpenAI models. I tend to watch what's going on every single day. So if I decide tomorrow that GPT 5.2 is better for X, Y, and Z, I'll change the model, literally on the spot. Or Gemini, or suddenly, I don't know, let's pretend Grok was better for something, I'll change it to that, literally. So I'm watching what's going on. But it is also RAG-based, so it's using first what it's been trained on, and then and the guardrails that are put in there and the training methodology for the actual AI and the way it answers is very, very strict. I go back, I literally check it every single day. So yeah.
And then in terms of fluency, what is the source of the language training data for the local languages?
So it's based on Google and Gemini. So at the moment, those are the highest trained language models. I don't know if you'll agree with that. So yeah, I don't know if that makes sense to you.
Yeah.
It's not only, sorry, we spoke about it's African languages.
Yeah.
It's all languages. So it's available in all languages, not only South African languages.
Yeah. And then in terms of adjusting this approach according to the learner's preferences, when I've tried AI tools aimed at learning, they focus very heavily on the Socratic method, which is like asking questions. And for me, it's very frustrating, especially with like the reliance on metaphors. I am autistic, so like I take things kind of literally, and if a metaphor doesn't quite make sense, it becomes very frustrating for me. So is it able to adjust according to prompts from the learner about like, please like, do not ask me constant questions, and yeah, keep the metaphors at a minimum and that type of thing.
So the educators that I've worked with to help train it have all basically pushed it towards being Socratic methodology. I have trained it because I worked with other people in America who said to me they finding in the schools in the US, sometimes it's irritating for the kid. And that it needs to be trained to say, I just don't like that answer. And that's why you can see there's two options there. Guide me, or just give me the instant answer. And give me the instant answer will still give you an explanation, but in a much more direct way than the guiding one will.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I think a huge thanks, Leora, for your time on our panel. Mbali, thank you. Joel, thank you. Mvelo, folks, our panel, very insightful and very helpful. And yes, to this being implemented fairly across the country and widespread in terms of those that, again, bridging that gap between those that don't have and those that do. And I think just to round this morning's wonderful launch of a man who's no stranger to the space of tech, Stephen Nathan, if I can call on you for a couple of closing words. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ryan. All I can say is wow, 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 and wow. I've been involved, so my background is in investment banking, which I'm not proud of. I am proud of starting a company, 10X Investments, where we try to disrupt retirement funds, cut out complexity, underperforming fund managers, expensive intermediaries, etc. So I'm very proud of that, and I'm proud that Joel, Ryan as well, and Jordan are clients. I hope many of you are as well. But I'm involved with HelloAida together with Mike, and all I can say is I'm just more impressed, and I've been impressed from the start. We have over 2,000 learners currently on it that are using HelloAida on a regular basis. That's going to be doubling to 4,000. So a lot of tech is about promises. This is about delivery. The question was asked. The product works. Ryan, you thanked the panel. You were outstanding, and as was the panel. So Mbali, Joel, Mvelo, and most importantly, Leora. Also want to thank everyone who took the time to join us today. It's a very important conversation, so thank you. But the conversation's not over. Also to our live streaming audience, if it's piqued any questions you may have, any concerns, please log on to HelloAida. Leora is almost like a wizard. So she creates chatbots, and you can talk to chatbots, and there's you can say hello at HelloAida, and you can email us. So there's no shortage of getting in contact with us. We discussed a lot today, and I think AI is daunting for all of us in many ways. But I'm a financial person, so I kind of try and follow the money. And the US this year will spend $600 billion on data centers. That is well more than South Africa's entire GDP. They are adding 14 gigawatts of data center capacity, which is 40 times what exists in South Africa. So we can't compete on scale. We have to compete on efficiency. We have to box smart. But South Africans are great at doing that. And HelloAida is an example of how we can take the brilliance that is being developed elsewhere and leverage it for the South African context. I think, Joel, you said you go to these conferences around the world and AI, but it's not fit for purpose. It's not local. It's not in the local language and the local curriculum. And HelloAida is. I'd like us all to picture a child sitting at the kitchen table the day before a maths exam. They've tried, but they can't understand. There's no one to ask. There's no one to help. So they sit there, stuck. Now imagine another child, same age, same ability. But they have help, someone explaining, guiding, motivating. Those children don't stay equal for long. Not because of talent, because of access. That's the gap. We spoke about that a lot today. And the truth is, technology often widens that gap. not narrow it. That's why HelloAida exists, because we believe that every child's life is of equal value and every child deserves access to world-class education. Not someday, not for some people, but for everyone, in their own language, at any time, at a price they, or hopefully others, can afford. It's fair to say we can't solve every problem today, but plugging HelloAida into the education ecosystem has the potential to make an enormous difference. It frees up a lot of other spend on education that is not producing the ROI, the returns. And hopefully that excess money can be spent to address some of the other issues we've spoken about it. Now, for the first time, we have something extraordinary. I think everyone agrees. A true superpower, AI. But like any superpower, it depends how it's used. You can ignore it and fall behind. You can misuse it. Quick answers, shortcuts, lack of learning, and not reach your full potential. Or you can embrace it. And that's what HelloAida is built for. It helps you learn, to think, to grow. If we get this right, the child at the kitchen table is no longer stuck. They have support. They have access. They have a real chance. And when that happens, not just for one child, but for millions, we don't just improve education, we unlock potential at scale. We change the trajectory of lives, of families, of generations. And in doing so, we begin to reshape what South Africa can become. And that opportunity changes everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time this morning. Feel free to stick around. There's some snacks at the back of the room. Mike, thanks for your hospitality here in your beautiful building. I used to work 2 floors down, and very rarely I'd get invited up here. When I did, I knew the hospitality was always good up on this floor. So thanks again to everyone who's been watching online. Engage with the product. Feel free to come and ask the panel members throughout the course of the next 15 or so minutes, whatever you feel like asking them. Folks, enjoy the rest of your week, and thanks for joining us today.